It's a glorious spring day here, and we're going to make our cottonwood bud salve out of the cottonwood buds that we've gathered and that have been sitting in oil here for the last 6 weeks or more. It's fine if they sit more than 6 weeks. You just want to at least get them for 6 weeks. That helps get all the medicine out of the plant and into the oil. This is olive oil, so I'm going to put this through a strainer now that it's been sitting. And you can use any kind of oil. I like to use olive oil because it's very shelf stable, right? It doesn't go rancid the way a lot of the polyunsaturated oils do, but anything else you like works fine. So once you've got your oil that's been sitting for a while, you strain it because you want to separate the oil from the plant parts. I've got my little strainer here. Give that a little stir. Now I've got my oil down here. And so the next step to make this, now you have a medicinally infused oil. And so you could just rub this on your hands and that would be awesome just the way it is. But if you want to make a salve or a cream or a lotion or anything like that out of it, you need to mix the oil with another substance that basically is going to act as a thickener. So what I'm doing here is I'm just measuring the amount of oil I have, because it's essentially about an ounce of beeswax, which is what I typically use, to 1 cup of oil. So I have probably something closer to ½ cup of oil here. So I'm gonna use about an ounce. And you're measuring the oil by volume, liquid volume. What do I have here? Yep, I have about ½ cup. Actually, I have about 2 ounces, it's even less because the plants take up some of it. So I have about 2 ounces of oil here. I'm gonna put that in my pan over a stove that's on very low heat, because I don't want the oil to actually heat up and boil or cook or anything like that. What I want is to have it just be warm enough to melt the beeswax. Okay, so this is a ½ ounce of beeswax. I'm only going to put about half of it in because I had less oil than I thought I did. I only had about 2 ounces rather than a full ½ cup. And you can use beeswax in any size. I like these little pearl things because they melt really easily. And again, you don't have to use beeswax. You could use shea butter or cacao butter, coconut oil. The whole point of this is to act as a thickener. So if you use something like coconut oil, you just, sorry, my stove's not very hot here. Turn it up a little bit. Where was I? Oh yeah, the whole point of using some kind of oil is a thickener. So if you use something like coconut oil, it's not going to be very thick at room temperature, right? Or even on a warm day, it's going to turn more liquidy. So beeswax is a nice one because it's solid at room temperature. Cacao butter would work well as well. It just probably would make me want to eat the salve all the time because it would smell like chocolate. You could use a mix of some beeswax, some shea butter, whatever works for you. So you can see that the beeswax here is pretty much dissolved into the oil. And really that's all you need to make a salve, is oil and some kind of wax or butter that's going to thicken it up. I like to add a little bit of vitamin E, so I've got some vitamin E oil here. And for something this size, probably just a drop. Whoops, well, we got 3 in there. Vitamin E is just an antioxidant, so it helps preserve the oil. So, for a 8-ounce jar, I might add like 5 drops. I also like to add a little essential oil, makes it smell good. Again, acts as a preservative, so we'll do a couple drops of essential oil in there just to get that in there. And again, maybe 10 drops for an 8-ounce jar. Right. So now we have our salve. So one thing you can do is you can test the thickness of it, right? You can take a little bit, put it down here in your salve container. I just get a couple drops there in the container. And let it sit up for a minute and just see how viscous it is or how hard it gets. And if you want it softer, add a little more oil. If you want it harder, add a little more of the butter or the wax. So this is pretty good. It's got a good solid, it's kind of a coolish day, but it melts pretty well in my hands, but it's not super hard, but it set up pretty well. So the last step is you move all my other things out of the way here. you pour your salve. Basically, we've got melted salve now, and you pour it into your salve container and you let it thicken. And when it's done, put the lid on and you have salve. Just like our jar, we want to label what it is and when we made it so that we don't forget. And just a reminder, the Cottonwood bud salve is great for dry hands and diaper rash and any kinds of rash, rough, dry skin, because it's very anti-inflammatory, it's very soothing to dry skin, and it's very healing to the skin. So those are all great uses for Cottonwood bud oil. Comes in really handy in the summer when your heels get all dry from walking around in sandals all summer, or your hands get dry from working in the garden, or whatever it is. So enjoy.